3 photographers from 3 different time zones, all connected by night photography and all shooting with the Pentax K-1. We are the Nightaxians. Last time we talked about the 15-30 and the 28-105. And that is a lens that we all own. And there's one more lens that we all own, but then there's a couple lenses that not all of us own. Did you track all that?
I almost lost.
I feel like I need a blackboard to write out the equation.
Yeah, maybe some sort of a flow chart or something.
Yeah. Oh, so I thought we could talk about those lenses, and there was one in particular that I thought we might start off with, which is Ken's Lensbaby. So
Lensbaby.
Yeah, take it away on that one, because this one's super fascinating.
All right, so I'm going to first start by jamming this in front of the camera. So I just hit the microphone with my. Anyway, so
nice.
This is a Lensbaby, and it's a quasi tilt shift lens. It's not a true tilt shift lens, but it is tilt shift in the sense that it changes. It changes the focal area from. In other words, the focal elements are not parallel to the sensor anymore if you bend it. And that's the remarkable part about this lens, is that this is how you this is simply how you shift it. It's completely physical, like this. So you tilt it so the lens elements are no longer parallel to the sensor.
And then when basically bending the lens.
Yeah, you're literally bending this. And so when you do this, depending on which way you tilt it, you're changing the plane of focus. So it's creating this slice of focus depending on how you bend it. And then the other aspect to how you control the blur is the f-stop. So the wider the aperture, just like any other lens, the more blur effect there is. So you and that too is manual. So everything about this lens is manual, but that's kind of what makes it fun. That's what makes it experimental. And that's also what makes it really challenging to focus on during night photography. It's really challenging sometimes. Yeah, especially when it's dark. You really have to shine a bright light on your subject and then try and focus the best you can. So, and how I focus this is I will set it to the wide aperture, get my focus. And of course, it's more challenging to get focus when it's wide, but that's okay. Dial it in, and then I'll stop it down a little bit, and then I'm ready to go. So
how did you how did this hit your radar?
So Lensbaby actually has been on my radar for quite some time. I'm not sure how I came across it. Probably just, doing odd. Oh, you know what? I think I know why. It was because I've always been interested in tilt shift lenses. And while I still don't really truly have a tilt shift lens, this somewhat does the job of a tilt shift lens in that respect. It'll do quasi miniaturization effects and things like that. It won't straighten architectural elements or anything like that. That's not really what it's designed to do. It's designed to do that slice of focus. But anyway, that's how it came across my radar. And I thought, this just sounds like a lot of fun. But when I investigated initially, 10, 12 years ago, when I first came across this, Lensbaby had pretty cheap stuff. It was kind of cheap and plastic, and it wasn't really taken seriously. But not so much anymore. It's more of a serious lens. It's very creative, and there's that physical component by bending things, and you can never ever really completely replicate it, which I really like. So I don't think I could ever perfectly replicate any sort of photo with this, and I really like that aspect of it. Each photo is truly original, and it's fun. And again, it puts that physical component back in, which I thoroughly enjoy. So, yeah.
Now the area of focus, is that something you can actually control? Like if you want it over here on the right, you can put it on the right. If you wanted it here, you could put it there. Is that?
Yes. So I can control what they call the slice of focus, and what that means is that there's this. Well, I don't want to define it by continually saying slice of focus, but there's this area in the lens that typically goes across this way or this way, depending on which, or even straight up and down, depending on which way you turn it. And so you can control it in that respect. And then with the f-stop, you can control how broad it is.
Like how wide?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so the more you step your lens down, the broader it gets, because your depth of focus has widened. So there are more things in focus. And so by the time you get to a relatively small aperture, you might not see that much effect. But of course, that kind of takes the whole fun out of it, because if you do that, you may as well just use a normal lens,
Use
right?
regular lens.
Yeah. So that said, if you have this straight up in the middle, just with no tilt whatsoever, and then you put it on something like f8, it's just going to be a regular lens. So there's no point in that, but you can use it as a regular lens if that's what you want to do. But like we talked about last episode, we're using the 28-105, which is a fairly regular normal lens for that purpose, and that's such a brilliant lens that why would we use a Lensbaby instead? There's no point in that. So
right.
So you mentioned the slice of focus. I think we can create a new acronym, because SOF makes a word, kind of. So you could just call it a SOF, which is one letter short of soft. I don't know. It seems like it kind of fit, but
it could. And what we could do is we could start a thing where we're always talking about SOF in a lot of our posts and things like that, and it gets people scrambling for their little acronym dictionary or what have you, thinking, what is that?
I'll be sure to notify Webster's that they need to add that.
Or the Urban Dictionary. I feel like though, you're going to look it up and find out that it means something really nefarious or X-rated or something. So
yeah, it's probably
we'll have to verify
really...
it first. Well, I have not seen the lens in person. I don't think we've been on a trip together, or if you brought it when you went out to meet me in Nelson back in October, if you brought it with you or not, because I don't remember seeing you use it. Did you bring it with you for that trip?
I had it in the bag, I'm pretty sure, but I don't think I ever took it out of the bag. I don't think I ever used it. So
I should have asked to see it, because now I'm thinking like, oh, that would have been so cool to
next
try
time.
out. Yeah.
I forgot to mention something with this. So they have something called an optic swap system. And what that basically means is that I can take the lens out. I'm not going to do it here, but I can take the lens out, revealing only this part, which is called the Composer Pro. There's several different composers. There's Composer 2 and so forth. But the Composer is the thing that actually mounts into the camera. And in this case, this is a K-mount for our Pentax. And then the lens actually slides into the Composer. So the Composer, not the lens, but the Composer is actually the thing doing the bending. So it'll do the bending for any Lensbaby lens that I swap into here.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, that's the system that they're using. And so obviously it's a nice cost-cutting measure, because, and I don't mean that Lensbaby's being cheap, but I mean for us, it's much more budget friendly, because all I have to do from now on is just buy all these lenses, and I don't have to continually purchase the mount. So it's therefore considerably less expensive. So once you get one of the Composers, then the whole thing gets noticeably less expensive. So that's pretty ingenious of Lensbaby to come up with something like that, and pretty innovative, I think.
It really is. I mean, if you think that, oh, well, that means that they're not going to make as much money because they can't mark up complete packages with mounts. On the other hand, you're more likely to buy into that system because it's going to be a lot easier to add into it.
Yeah.
And in the end, you'll probably end up spending, as much money, if not more, just because of that convenience feature. That's a pretty cool thing. I don't know anybody else who does that.
No, I don't either. The remarkable thing about this as well is that it focuses up to 7 inches, and I haven't fully tested that, but you might see in some of the photos that I'm kind of pretty up close on things. I'm probably within a foot in maybe one of the photos. So it does get pretty close. 7 inches is, that's getting in there.
I think that might be a good opportunity to look at a couple of the photos that you've snagged with this lens.
Yeah.
And I'll throw this up on the screen for folks, but of course, the one that I want to go to immediately is, you guessed it, the pink bunny.
The bunny.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up on my computer so I can look at it. How far were you away on that one?
Well, this one I was outside the truck cab.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess it was probably about 3 feet or so. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no more. It's no closer than 2 for sure. I don't know what it was though. This is a 35 millimeter that I'm using, so you might be able to extrapolate from that.
Mm-hmm.
This bunny thing, I should mention here that this was actually really taken on Halloween. It's a good creepy photo to take on Halloween, and it was taken during a full moon. So, the creep factor is all in.
It's all there. That's what you want.
That is such a double whammy. They make horror movies based on that kind of stuff. So
they do. Yeah. So this one is taken in an abandoned airfield in Central California, and I know people are going to ask me. So yes, I did bring the bunny. I did not find it in the truck. That would make a great story, but sorry, that's not true.
Yeah.
And so I placed the bunny there, one ear up, one ear down, because it looked extra good that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I illuminated it from the top and from a couple of different angles, and made sure that slice of focus that the Lensbaby has sliced across the bunny, but then started boring the farther out it went. And so you could see that a lot of the steering wheel and background, for instance, are they have quite a lot of bokeh to it. So
yeah, and you got some cool cobwebs in there, and the springs on the back where the seat is. I mean, it's just, there's so much going on there. But between the light and the bokeh and the soft, slice of focus, it's just everything. Your eye goes right to it. I think it'd be fun if you
right to the bunny.
Yeah, would be fun if you had this the bunny in the passenger seat of your vehicle while you were driving there with a seatbelt, and if you got pulled over, just you don't say anything. Officer just walks up and says license and registration, and there's this creepy bunny sitting there.
And then he would just go, you know what, son, you just be careful.
You could also say, do you just want my license and registration, or do you want his also?
Yeah. Just act real nervous and act like, I know I'm not supposed to transport bunnies across county lines in this state.
That's right. There's I don't remember for sure, but there's a pretty good chance that bunny and George were both sitting in the front seat at the same time.
Oh,
nice.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have all the necessary safety equipment for all of your passengers. That's all I'm saying on that.
And they get along. George and the bunny get along okay, right?
They did okay.
Okay. Good.
That's good. It's such a great photo, and we talked about it when we did your book interview, and I think we spent a good amount of time on it because it's such an interesting, unique image. Not seen anything like that, but it's cool to bring props. I mean, that's like a whole nother discussion at some point, just talking about like what you bring when you go out to shoot, and it's not always just camera gear.
We could, I initially purchased this for our West Virginia trip because we were going to photograph that abandoned amusement park, and I thought
Lake Shawnee.
Lake Shawnee.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was the perfect place to bring a poor little bunny. And so, and I did photograph it there, and I haven't used it that much. I rarely use props, but this was a must because, again, Halloween, abandoned airfield, that's a gimme.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, perfect. There's a gentleman we know by the name of Dave Hi, Dave, if you're watching this, and he lives out in California, and I think he occasionally would bring props, and then of course Ron is somebody else that we know who likes to do that kind of stuff. So I can't really fly with a lot of stuff, so I can't usually bring more than just my camera equipment and my clothes. But if I lived out that way, I might be driving around with some extra stuff just for ha-has.
Somebody in the passenger seat.
You'd really need to bring the bunny as a carry-on, just sort of in a plastic bag, and go through TSA with that.
Just have it stick out the back of the camera bag. It would really creep out the kids on the plane. That's for sure. I pulled up the other photo that you shared with us, which is the very red front end of a vehicle with the blue backlit windshield, and that's really awesome because of the red and the blue. Yeah, that's a vintage truck. And where I was going with this is, remember I was talking about the miniaturization effect with the tilt shift? Yes.
That's sort of what inspired this here. And a lot of times what works with a miniaturization photo is really bold, vivid, deep colors, because it enhances that toy-like sort of quality that tilt shift miniaturization can bring. And so that's really what inspired that here. So I wanted this to look, like evoke almost like candy or something like that, or a toy or things like that. So we have the blue in the back, and then you can see the outline of the shadow of the steering wheel, which I love to do. And then the red, which I just hit the red with a normal white light because it was already so incredibly red that I didn't need to do anything to it. So,
it would have been too much. I'm looking at the grill on that photo. The grill, you can see some. It looks like some lines. Is that from the lens? Do you see the lines going across the front of the grill?
Well, all that is, originally on the truck. I think if it's
that like the ribbing in the top of the grill, maybe.
There's so on the one that I'm looking at, there's starting in the upper right corner, there's like a gray line that goes down. So are you saying that there was like vertical striping on the grill as well besides the horizontal? I didn't know if that was I didn't know if that was a lens effect or if it was
the lens effect. The lens effect should be just the blur. It shouldn't be adding anything, I don't think. So
there's some striping that goes opposite the actual grill metal. So I don't know if that was like paint issues on the truck or if that was just some weird effect being caused by the lens. That's why I asked about it. Maybe my eyes are messing with me, but I'm looking at it right now, and I can see some interesting striping there. I'm getting old. Yeah, maybe I'll wear the glasses instead of the contacts next time.
There you go. Try it.
But you mentioned the poppy colors, like the really oversaturated stuff. And anytime you look online about trying to make tilt shift, effects, they always say pop the colors because you want it to look like hobby colors, and you just so happen to grab that here too.
It really helps. So this is actually one of the first photos that I ever took with the Lensbaby Edge 35 Optic. So, and so hence the inspiration from the tilt shift miniaturization.
How long did it take you when you got this lens and you started using it? How long did it take you before you felt pretty comfortable that you'd go and get a decent shot and you could start thinking about things when you went out in terms of how you were going to use it? Did you pick it up pretty quick, or did it take a while?
Quickly. This is the first time I ever used the lens for night photography right here, and this is probably like the first or second photo I ever took.
So it wasn't
super.
Yeah. So this wasn't something where you were kind of messing around and you accidentally got a good shot. You felt pretty comfortable with it. That happens to me. The reason I ask is because if people are watching this, they might be like, I don't know if I want to try to figure out how to master that thing. But if you're saying that you can more or less take it out of the box, pop it on the camera, and feel pretty good about it, that's a great selling point.
Well, in my opinion, if you can take it out of the box and not only make a photo of it, but do night photography photos, that's a sort of testament to how easy the lens is to use. But, certainly there's the focusing issue that I spoke about earlier. And, so I quickly figured that out by having having the thing wide open and then stopping down a little bit. So,
Right.
So the only thing I suppose is that just like any lens, you know how it is when you get like say an f1.4 lens. Of course, you have to shoot everything at f1.4 to see what happens. You know, so
Right.
it is with you know, I mean that's just human nature, right? You have to
Yeah.
mess around with it.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like with the Lensbaby, because at first you think, oh, right on. You know, what I mean, I can make the slice of focus thing really pronounced. Okay, I'm going to shoot at f3.5, which is its widest aperture and the most pronounced blurring that there is. And so I did a lot of these photos at first at f3.5, and then later realized, you know, if I stop it down a little bit, I can get a little bit more in focus, and it's not quite so out of control.
Right. Right.
But
it is fun to do the extremes, though. You know,
it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like a fun lens, and it's almost, I don't know how you feel about this, Mike, but when I look at this kind of stuff, I kind of feel like that's the Ken Lee style now. Like that's.
Oh yeah, almost because it's got that small area of focus that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think this will be like the fisheye where, I mean, I use that fisheye all the time. You know, I've been using a fisheye for whatever it is, like 4 years or whatever it is, and I use it all the time. I won't use the Lensbaby all the time, but I'm always going to have it in my bag because when I want to use it, it's there. And it's such a small, light lens. I can put this in my pocket.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like, there's absolutely no reason to not go out at night with the lens.
Right. There's a lens I'm going to mention a little bit later that's kind of like that. But we also said that about the 28-105, that it's so light, you could throw it in there and be, totally fine with it. And if you don't use it, you don't use it. But better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
Exactly.
Such a great lens. And for the money, the 28-105, I mean, you just really get your money's worth. It's super sharp, super useful, great lens.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
Like I told you guys before, I've had the 28-105 on my Pentax for, several months now, since November. I haven't taken it off once.
Yeah, and I used it. I think I mentioned, that is a long time. It's probably welded to it now. It's like completely grown into it. You can't take it off ever. You have to saw it. When I broke my 15-30 and that was out for repair for several weeks, almost 3 months, I shot exclusively with the 28-105 too. And I wouldn't say I got to a point where I was like, you know, I don't care if I don't have that 15-30, but I was definitely not feeling like I was missing anything.
Yeah.
It didn't inhibit any of my shooting, which was nice. Yeah. In fact, somebody had commented about trying to find a lens like around 30 millimeters or 35 and for Astro. And I said, why don't you just get the 28-105? Because it's cheaper than a lot of the primes out there.
Oh yeah.
And with the Astro tracer, it doesn't matter really if it's f2.8 or not. 3.5 is fine for it. And
absolutely.
I was right in the peak of what I consider to be the Milky Way season here on the Cape, and that's all I had. And maybe I needed to get a little further back from my subjects as opposed to 15, but no complaints. That really saved my summer.
Yeah, it's a lot of bang for the buck.
Yeah, they all look great too. You know, all those photos that you took last summer, they look great. So thank you.
And again, I think I paid $349 and it was a used one. I think retail it's like a $449, $499, somewhere around there right now.
Something like that. Yeah. It's still even brand new. It's a bargain.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. So, well, I don't know if I'd get the tilt shift because I see the amazing things you do with it, and that's your thing. But I'm not tilt shift, the Lensbaby, but I might at some point. It might just be one of those things that you've kind of talked me into because it's so light and fairly affordable. Do you remember about what you paid for that?
Initially, I think if you purchase it with the Composer, I think it's probably either $400 or $450. I got it on sale, and I don't remember how much it was. So I'm going to guess
still good though.
I'm going to guess it was somewhere around $400, but the lenses are obviously substantially less than that once you get the Composer. So
if somebody already has the Composer, then they can just get this attachment for it for significantly less, presumably.
Yeah, and I don't remember how much that is, but I want to say it's somewhere north or south of $200. I don't remember, but
Wow. That's pretty
something
good.
like that. But even if
That's
it's 250, it's pretty great. So,
other than that, other than the 15 to 30 that we all have,
right.
I think for the most part, we're all shooting with lenses that are pretty affordable.
I think so.
Yes,
Pretty happy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've been really happy with what I've had. I've owned, you guys have had Nikon and I've had Canon, and I've definitely owned a higher value collection of lenses with the other systems. Yeah, but I've never been so happy and with the ones that I have for Pentax, and also I have more of them.